Ray, do you want to start at 20 today or at 10? We're pretty packed today, so up to you. 2 minutes? Cool. Sounds good. Fair enough. And PowerPoint went away, which is weird. True.
Wouldn't have been so far.
Oh wow, look at this turnout.
Yeah, it's pretty great, eh?
It's all because of you, Josh.
That's... Oh boy. Thanks, Ray. Oh, you're not Ray, you're fucking... Don't mess up, automatically gets everyone's names wrong. Cool. Alrighty, tidy guys. We're gonna get started. I did just say already tidy because that's the kind of person that I am. Today we're talking about source/version control, and the subtitle is controlled at source because I was tired when I wrote this presentation. Basically, if you're not aware what source control is, or if you understand nothing about it, there are lots of Office memes in this, by the way. I'm a huge Office fan, so sorry if you're not, but this is hilarious. So what is source control? Essentially, source control just helps developers track the progress of any project that they're working on. It's really easy to see the changes, revert changes to the project that you have, and see where issues occurred along the way if you end up breaking it. It's also really easy to develop collaboratively when you're using source control, as opposed to your version 1, version 2, version 3.zip that you might have on Google Drive. This helps have everything in a more streamlined fashion, and so you'll see all of that on your repository. And if you don't know what that means, that's okay, because we're going to talk about that in a second. So there are multiple methods of source control. Git and Mercurial are two really popular ones. I don't know if any others exist, if they're kind of there, but no one uses them, who knows. So we'll be using Git for the purposes of this. I know later on in the program you will be touching Mercurial a little bit, but I know Git, and Git is what a lot of people use in first, second year, so that's what we'll be sticking to. So there are some also popular online tools or hosts that you can put your repository on. That one's being GitHub and Bitbucket. And so there's in the program you might see people talking about which one is better than the other. In reality, it doesn't matter. It's just kind of fun to argue about because people like arguing. But we're going to use GitHub primarily just because it allows for more team members. Your GDW max amount of team members is 6, but Bitbucket's max amount of people that can be on a repository while not paying for it is 5. So, issue. Also, if you sign up for GitHub, which we'll be doing later, and you apply for GitHub Educate, you can get unlimited free private repositories, which is amazing. It means your repo isn't public for everyone to see. If you're the type of person who cares about your repo being stolen / your game being down, it doesn't really matter. But if you like privacy, it's there. Also, I bolded the word repository. The repository is just an online structure, essentially, where all of your project files is stored, and that's online on whatever tool you're using to host, GitHub in our case. And it's just where it is. It's where everything goes to when you're pushing or pulling, and we'll talk about those terms in a second. So, in order to interface or work with Git, you can use either the Git console or you can use a GUI, which is what we're going to be doing. Because you don't want to be using the command line. It's just not necessary for our purposes. It is really cool if you get to learn how command line works, and I know I was forced to last semester when I broke the repository. Don't do that. But I learned a lot about just command line and stuff in general from experience, and you'll figure out that a lot of things in this program are just things that you've learned from experience. And then, so SourceTree is a popular option that people use as an interface. So is GitKraken. We will be using GitKraken because SourceTree has a tendency to not work, at least in my experience. And so some people like it, some people don't. That is the gist of that. If you'd like, I would appreciate it if everyone went to this link, which is right here at the top. It's your standard link, and download and run the installer for GitKraken. And that's the end of the presentation. I'm just kidding. I made things for you to do because that's the kind of person that I am. So your first, objective is please install GitKraken, and you have some time to do that. I can walk around and help if anyone needs help with getting the installation process down. Cool. I'll give you guys like 5-10 minutes for that.
So wait, why should I use GitKraken instead of Google Drive?
Well, Connor, that's a great question. As I stated earlier, it really allows us to essentially just have a better, more easier way to track all of the changes that we've made in the software. Matt, what do you want?
Well, actually, Google Drive has added additional functionality where it will actually do versions.
Yeah, no, I know. So Google Drive says which version file that you're on, but you can't actually go and look over every single file that you've seen, and especially track back where changes have been made. Like, you can't go into Google Drive, upload your entire Visual Studio solution, and be like, that's the line that changed that broke everything. Whereas in SourceTree you can't. Or Git, you can.
Yeah, guys, moral of the story, just pay attention to Josh. Put in like 20 minutes more effort than most of your peers will, and you guys will be super ahead. It'll come back to help you at learning source control.
And also don't listen to me.
Yeah, Matt's just here to meme and try to point out flaws in my presentation.
Well, that and I also want to learn a little bit more about GitKraken because my team just recently switched,
honored.
So.
GitKraken's pretty rad. I know, like, if you've used SourceTree, you know that it just sometimes it just doesn't work. Like, it's really annoying.
Into your files and
Yeah, it also sometimes throws garbage code into your files. Cool. I'll just be doing a little walk around and we can start in like a solid 5. It shouldn't take that long to install. Sorry?
Always ask for a show of hands.
To see how progress is going? Yeah. Cool. I'm just like...
I made it one project.
Once it's open. Awesome.
Just there.
Oh.
Does it matter if you sign up with GitHub and create the actual account?
We're going to be making an account in GitHub in a second, so just like install it and leave the first window that you see open, and we'll go back to it in a sec.
We have to create a separate GitHub account.
No, so we're going to make an account on GitHub, and you can sign in to GitKraken with your GitHub account. But we haven't done that yet, so if you just want to get it up and running, we'll go to GitHub in a second and walk you through that process. Cool. Can I just get a show of hands to see how everyone's doing? Just a thumbs up if you're good and ready to go. Cool. If you're confused, you can do a thing that's not a thumbs up, or you can, yeah. Cool beans. We're going to move on. Congratulations, you have now installed software. You're a game developer. The next thing that we're going to do is sign up for GitHub. So there's your link. Register using your UOIT email account. This is a mistake I made because I didn't have university when I started. But if you sign up using that, it makes the educate process more easier. So if you do want to go, I said more easier. If you do want to go and create a GitHub Educate account and get the packages and the cool toys that come with that, sign up using your UOIT email. It makes the process just slightly easier, and GitHub won't be like you're not actually a student, because you are.
Doesn't seem to like my email. Where's that?
I think that might just be the username not being available. Okay, Craig, you're having the same thing.
Yeah, and it's not going to support that.
Alright, do you want to just see if it makes any changes if you just switch pages to the actual? That's really weird. Is everyone getting the something went wrong message?
Yeah.
Yes.
Not me.
Great!
I can sign in fine, but not make it go down.
Well,
You broke GitHub.
we broke GitHub. Congratulations, everybody.
Is this like an internet issue?
I have no idea. That kind of screws with everything.
Yeah, I was going to say, if the chance that internet doesn't feel like working, yeah, teach some random shit.
Yeah. That's really weird. Let me just do a quick see if it's for me as well.
Why did no one come up with this?
So that they can't make their own account.
No, it's well, like mine is not popping up any errors, but everyone else just seems to be going wrong. Yeah, mine just fixed it. Mine just is working as well. So if everyone can refresh their page and try again, Git might have just had a temporary blips. Cool.
Alright guys, everybody hear that? GitHub seems to be up and running now, so just Control R it up and try making those accounts again. Sorry, I don't have my glasses on. Let me look for it. Yeah, but chances are whichever one's free.
Sorry, did someone just say third-party data breach? And if so, why did you say those words? Oh, that's fun and completely out of my control. Well, yeah, that might also be the reason. Cool. Just a show of hands again. Can I get a thumbs up if you're good and a thumbs not up if you're gets screwed? Cool. We'll give you guys a few more minutes then. Not a problem. We have time.
Do we just pick the free plan?
Yeah. Can you see why I'm not a 2D artist?
Terrible circle.
Shh. Ugh.
You mean it looks the exact same as source? Tracking's it's got dark view and it doesn't show you just a list of all the files you pushed. It shows you the trees. It's all the folders, which I think is much nicer. After like 5 days, the tree is much nicer.
For what? All right, can I just get a show of hands again? How are we doing, everybody?
What page are we supposed to be on?
You just should be finished registering for your GitHub account. It just should be, you know, the welcome page of GitHub. Cool. All right, if we're all good, I'm going to continue. If you need help, just raise your hand. We have programming club execs literally everywhere, so we're all good. Actually, can I just see how many people you guys? How many of you guys are actually here with your GDW groups right now? Anyone? Cool. So in a moment, not yet, but in a moment, we're just going to go into our GDW groups so you can actually make your repository with them. If they're not here, that's cool. Make a repository for yourself. Still have, you know, the learning experience. But if you are with your GDW group, get into groups with them in a sec, because you're going to need that.
What if only some of our group members are here?
If only some of you guys are here, that's cool. Because you can just group up together and just do what I have like planned, the little exercise majigger, just within yourselves, and then you have the opportunity later, because I'm coming to your GW class next week anyways to do this again. So you'll have the opportunity to do it with all of them in a few weeks. Cool. So this is what you're creating in your repository screen looks like. You don't all have to do this right now. It's going to be when you get in groups, but just so I can show you what that process looks like. So when you're creating a new repository, in there you can label your team name, whatever it is that you really want to name your repository, and then you can go through into the git ignore there and hit the Visual Studio. There's going to be a little drop down box that'll say Visual Studio. What the git ignore does is it essentially just ignores any junk files that Visual Studio produces when you're pushing and like making changes to your project. And so that prevents your Git repository itself from being filled up with things that it doesn't need to function, so that your team members are only getting crucial files and not things that don't matter to the overall project. Once you're done in making your repository, you can add your team members by their GitHub username. You can also do the email address, but GitHub is private by default, so you'll have to go through and enable your account as public before adding people by their email address. So just add them by the username that they've registered on GitHub. So that being said, if you guys can get into your GW groups, and if you want bonus for points that I'm not tracking, initialize a README file. If you don't know what that means, that's cool. That's why it's a bonus. Yeah. Yeah, so just make it private. So this is a license that I'm right about that. I had to restore here, make it and that prevents it from adding when you push your Visual Studio project. Yeah. And just if you guys have a problem with the process, I'm going to create a new repository for the purpose of this because I'm going to need it later. You only need one repository for a team, yeah, whoever asked that. What's up? Yeet.
There you go. No.
Stop, go back.
Go back.
Cool. So this is what it looks like. You can put a thing in here if you want, like this is for game programming club part 2, because I already tested this at home. And you can be like create repository. And then that's what you should see. You can, if you, I'm going to tell you how to do the bonus just because you can just hit add remake and then it's like, oh cool, wow, look at that, that's what I typed. And you can just create a new file and don't worry about that for now. Yeet. And so that's what it looks like on GitHub. And when you go and clone the repository, which we'll do later, you'll see all those files go onto your computer because magic. Just kidding, it's science. But, yeet. Sorry? I just couldn't let the magic be. Sorry. Awesome. Can I just, again, I'm going to do this a lot today. You're going to hear me say it. Show of hands. How are we doing?
How are you doing?
Yes, super engaged hands. Awesome. I love the engagement in the room. Oh yeah, so if you want to add people to your repository, I can go back. You're going to go up, once you're in this screen, I can actually just show you on mine, it's way easier. So this is what you're going to see. You can head over to settings here, collaborators, and then scroll down and you can add people by their username. So Emery, do you mind me giving your username out? Yep. Awesome. So Emery's username on GitHub is mfresh, and so if I do that and then hit add, he's going to get a little thing on his email that's going to say, okay, you want to be added to this repository. And then this is username on everything.
Except for this one. So it doesn't have a yellow cross. We just code it. It works. Wow.
Yeah. And so Emery, you get that notification on your Gmail, right?
Yeah, give me like 1 second, just have to open it.
Yeah, definitely. So all your team members are going to get that on their Gmail, and once everyone's up and running, we are good to go.
Got it.
And I guess just as a tip, I'll just talk while you're doing this. Something that's really good to do is designate one person on your team as the repo person. They'll just be responsible for managing the actual process of the repository. You'll all be responsible for pushing code and pulling it, you know, getting assets and stuff on the repository itself. But it's good to have one person designated just so they have, maybe if they're the person that has the most understanding of Git or how it works, or they just feel interested in learning more about it. Having one person designated as your repo guy is a really great way to make sure that it doesn't break even further. There are a lot of things that you can do to make sure it doesn't break, but having one person who you just go to and clarify things with is awesome. Cool, cool. How are we doing, everyone? Thumbs? No thumbs? Nothing? Thumbs. I like it. Cool. Awesome. I'm going to move on now. If anyone's stuck, you know what to do. Raise your hand. People aren't going to hate you for it. All right, so if I could just get everyone's attention back to the front. Cool, cool. Do you have a question, dude?
Yeah, if I sent an invite to a friend.
Yeah. They're going to get it on their Gmail accounts. Cool. Anyone else have questions before I move on? Going once, twice. Awesome. All right, now I'm going to do an information dump on you. So this is going to be kind of insane. Not really, though. So if you do have any questions during this time, feel free to stop me. I won't be mad. I like answering questions and also talking. So first of all, we're just going to talk about some terms that you're going to see when you pop up in your repository. You're going to see a lot of things. Local and remote are two things that you're going to see very often, especially on your GitKraken interface. And so Git has two repository types, local and remote. Local is just on your computer. You can swap between branches and make any changes on the local repositories without affecting anything that's on the Git website or that's on the remote. The remote is, of course, the server or where your source code is actually hosted. This is a diagram. It's really shitty, and I don't know why I put it in here. So here's a slightly better diagram to explain the entire process. Basically, these little middle boys there are your local repositories, and then the server is, where everyone gets everything from. You can see that people pull and push to get changes and put them up onto the server. And then the working copy is what your computer has stored when you're actually making changes to the file. I'll go through the whole process as we move on, but just to explain the diagram a little more, where you see commit is what happens when you're finishing making changes to your working copy. You commit them, and that commits them and solidifies the changes on your local repository. Once you're done that, you push them up to the server on the remote repository, and that's where everyone else can pull those changes that you've just made. So interacting with the repository. So I just said this, when you're done editing your local repository, you commit, solidify the changes, and that puts them, you're done, you have made those changes to the local repository. To update the changes on the remote, you push those. And there's a process, I can show you that later. GitKraken kind of has their UI kind of spread out across the screen, so it's a little hard to get the hang of it first. And then you get updates from the remote by performing a pull. Make sure, just before you're pushing things, you maybe check with your repo guy, make sure that you're pushing to the right branch. We can talk about what branches are in a second, because they're pretty cool, but they're also a little confusing to wrap your head around. And the merge here brings two branches, again, together, so that's just bringing a branch essentially is just two different variations of the code, and bringing them together just pulls all those different variations into one file format. And I'll talk about them later because I have a slide that's better than my voice. And then clone just recreates that entire remote repository to your storage. So when we go and clone that repository later, when you hit that button, it's taking everything that's on the remote and just dumping it onto your computer in a clean fashion. Alright, so what's a branch? A branch is, again, a version of the source code that diverts from the rest. Branches help you control huge changes to the source code and prevent the build from getting just absolutely completely screwed over. A branch is good for allowing just one person to go ham on the code without changing everything else. And we'll talk about branches a little more when we go through Git flow, which is a Git work framework, I guess. It's not the best word thing, but whatever. Again, branches also save you and your team from huge code changes, and it prevents you from breaking literally everything. Have a branch. Branches were kind of daunting during my first semester second project, which I think is what you guys are on right now. We didn't have or first years. We didn't have a branch, and it broke things. Emery can attest. Yes, it did. So simply, a branch allows two versions of your code to exist on the same repository, on the same computer, but separately. So it's everything at the same time, but they exist kind of separately. It's hard to explain, but they're very, very useful. And so branches are first created on your local repository, at least when you're using GitKraken, and so those only exist on your computer, and then you can push those branches to the remote, and then everyone will have a copy of that branch up on the Git website. So similarly, you can just switch between branches on your computer with ease. So it allows you to work with multiple different versions of the software without compromising the files that you're already working on. So this is what the cloning process looks like. When you open up Git, you might have to go to the File, New, Open, Clone interface, but this is what will pop up. You can see your GitHub thing is right here. So if you've logged on to GitHub and authorized through GitKraken, you'll see this pop up. If not, it'll just ask you for a quick authentication and you'll be good to go. So this box indicates where on the PC you want to actually put your repository. I always recommend people have a documents, put the repo in their documents or whatever file that you want on your computer, but have a folder that's called repos, and then make a folder inside that for every repository that you have. It prevents you having to search around for around your entire computer for this one repo, and trust me, it's really annoying to have to do that, especially when you need to make changes to it. And then this is just which repository to clone. I have a bunch, as you can see, including the test one that I made while making this presentation. So you'll see all of these. It might not say your name at the top. It might say the person who shared that repository with you. You can still clone it because they've given you access to it. That being said, wow, another thing to do. Clone the repository to your PC and, like I said, create a repos folder, subfolder, clone it to there. You will thank me later when you try searching for it and you know exactly where it is. And I'll do like a solid 5 minutes because didn't really realize how long this was going to go. Cool beans.
Note, if you're like me and easily forget where you put folders, if you just put it in your documents library, when you're making the repos folder, create a desktop shortcut for it.
That's
That
smart.
way you'll never lose your repos because there's a link to it right there.
That's a good tip. And actually, I will just do this as well, just so you guys can see if you're stuck. So I'm just going here. A shortcut's apparently Control-N. Go to GitHub. Browse around.
Now, if you go back to GitHub, you should be able to now see all of your repos listed. So go back in the file and under github.com. Yeah, so now you can see this is the repo.
And if you just looked at what I did, you can see that there's the initial commit there and the README, which when I open it says that, which is what I typed, and is also super small, and that's not useful to you. So I will open this up, my file explorer over here, and send it to this screen. That didn't do that. Cool. And so when I move over to my documents here and hit repos, you can see that the README is right there. And if I open it in something like Notepad++, and just send that over here, you can see that it says exactly what I typed on GitHub, which is, you know, kind of cool. Kind of cool. Cool. Everyone feeling good with the cloning process? Any questions so far? Yeah, what's up, man?
I can't sync my GitHub account to get correct.
Cool, cool. Not a problem.
There you go. You have all the stuff that was pushed to that repo. No problem. I'm glad how intuitive this software is. I've actually never used it It's literally the same thing, it's just you have different app. Like it's a different application. Yeah, all of it just manages his own projects.
And then
And then
just navigate your GitHub.com website. Yeah, and then you just have to select where
Are you just talking about it?
like I said, I recommend making a coding
Like if any repos are open, as far as I'm concerned, like we're allowed to use any repo for the assignment.
So like,
no, so
Chris and I will respect you, or anyway, I don't know, Chris said in that first session, he expects everybody to use Bitbucket, I guess. Or like, he expects that's what he's teaching.
Oh yeah, I see. I like that. Like wait, did I just like mess up because I use source tree?
No, you're just calling something easy task.
Use whatever you're most familiar with, that's what it is. So like, but all the same commands are here, right? Like there's called and then like to clone something, you can actually, I'm not sure if Gitkraken has this, but the clone things, every time you right click somewhere, there's actually a set of tools you can use. So then you tell the first thing you clone this also here, and like that'll just whatever the so like you can just select just a different same thing. You can host for material. And I guess
there isn't, no, but it's very easy to do.
Right? And those files are important because so that you can edit that file and you can tell it what you want it to ignore. So you can make it so that certain files get filtered out and never get pushed. There's a lot of garbage files. Like every time you run Visual Studio, so you don't need that to be in there. That doesn't have to be synchronized because every time you build, you have to create so instead of getting more errors, you achieve more depending on which to make sure that those files don't get pushed unless you tell it explicitly to push it. And then like the other thing is, and the reason that they're different is like they can have different syntax, but there's a syntax called blob syntax, and that works between buckets. So yeah, you can basically, like if you ever to make I'm pretty sure the website gets it, will actually generate the slide. So like you just say like it's like a bunch of print like you just like say I want to get a zip file, and then it asks you what type of project you have, and then you select what you can pick. If you go to C# there, like there's all kinds of like 1,000 different fucking options. Yeah. And if you pick one, when you create the repository, it will generate an HD or a Git ignore with the stuff that it should ignore already.
Good? Everyone else? Proper? Awesome. Cool. If anyone else has any questions as we're moving on, you know the drill. We're just going to talk about what pushing is and just different operations that you can do on Git itself. Cool. So changes, of course, are recorded in the repo location, which is where you've put the project, which is what we just did. Adding or modifying files within the location will alert Git. So, sorry, can I just get everyone's attention? Thank you. So yeah, adding or modifying files will alert Git to any changes that happened, and that's going to be reflected in the repository itself. As you publish changes, commit and push to any desired branch that you have. So that's again going to be reflected inside Gitkraken, and you'll see that as a little warning error type thing in the top right hand corner of the screen. So pushing the same file in the same branch is going to cause issues. So make sure that you're communicating with your team as you're pushing things. This goes back to the whole, have a repo guy kind of scenario that we've set up. Oh, there's a part 2 of pushing. So awesome. This is just what I've done. So you can name a new file in the repo location. For simplicity, I'm using TXT files, but you guys will obviously be using Visual Studio projects. And so whenever you're adding something new in that location, you will, add that file in there. Usually if you're in Visual Studio, your project will be in the location of your repository, and you can just, as soon as you're adding a new file or making any changes to a file that's already in that area, Git will be alerted. In this case, I just added a text file. So there's a new file in the repo location, and then when you go on to Gitkraken, you're going to see up there that it says that you have unstaged files. And so that in this case is something_dumb.txt. Once you see this, you can either stage all your changes, or what I didn't indicate is that next to every individual text file, you can stage them individually. What staging does is just puts them up for commit. So you're selecting which files you actually want to commit before you're doing it. Step 2 in your process is just writing a commit message commit messages are really important. They tell the rest of the team or anyone else looking at the repo what that commit did. Again, this is part of communication, making sure that you're typing out what those changes are actually doing. So when people are looking back at it, you don't have to kind of examine every file and see what broke something. You're just like, okay, this version, this feature that we tried to add is what broke our repository, and you can revert really easily.
Can I add something?
Yeah, definitely.
So when you're writing a commit message, something that my GDW professor was really adamant on is that you guys as a team should decide on a consistent format for your commit messages. So something that my team that we did sort of following just what my professor used with his team when they were in the program is we would use square brackets at the very beginning of the commit message just so that everybody could get a general idea of what it was about. We'd use square brackets to encapsulate in all capitals, right? Add, mod, or something to that extent to basically just to tell everybody whether the commit was mainly adding new files, modifying existing files, or what have you, right? So if you put some sort of tagging system on the front end of your commits, it makes it a lot easier to keep track of things, and if you enforce that so that everybody has to do that, you'll be able to tell immediately what each commit does before you even read into the details of what it is.
Awesome. Like a change log, essentially.
Exactly, yeah.
Cool. So once you're done writing your commit message, you can hit stage files and changes to commit. That's what actually puts them up and makes the change in your local repository. So this doesn't finalize anything because source control is all about going back, but this is saying, okay, you're making those changes, you're ready to push them. And then the final stage is push, and that obviously puts everything up to your remote repository, and that's where everyone, if they hit the nifty little pull button right here, assuming that they're on the correct branch, will pull those changes to their local repository. Pretty cool. So pulling is basically exactly what I just explained. It pulls the desired files from the remote and will copy and put those files on your computer. It's always a good practice to check for pulls and changes on other branches as well, so you have like updated versions of every build. At least I feel that way. And always make sure you're pulling and checking for changes before you push things. If you push before you've pulled the changes, things will get kind of disgusting and you don't want it. Alright, so in terms of creating branches, you can create a branch locally first and then push it to the origin. And so I will show you guys that process because it's a little weird. So if you're on your local, actually can everyone see that right? I don't know if I can zoom in. I can, huh? Look at that. Cool beans. Yeah, so if you're zooming in here and you're like, okay, I want to make a branch, you can create a branch here. When you create a branch, depending on which you've right-clicked on, I've right-clicked on master, it'll create a branch at that location. And so I will explain what that means in a second. I'm just going to call this branch develop and commit those changes there. And then now, okay, now you can see it says on my local repository, I have develop on master, but on my remote, under the origin, there's only master available. So all I'm going to do to make sure that that branch is up on the remote repository is hit push, and it's going to ask me which branch, which remote branch should develop, push, and pull from. And so you can see here it says origin. That's just where it is on GitHub, and it's right here. It's autofilled to develop. That's fine for my purposes. You can change it so that the name on the remote is different from the local. That's kind of confusing, and I wouldn't recommend it. So you just hit submit. Awesome. Now you can see that remote is up here, and there's develop and master on my remote. And so if I change back to my GitHub and I go back here, you can see how that's indicated 2 branches. And I have my default branch is master and my develop branch is develop. It says updated 22 minutes ago. I don't know why. That's false because I just made the changes to the repository. That might be a time zone thing. It doesn't matter. It worked is the point I'm trying to convey here. So create local first, then push it to origin. Alternatively, you can keep your branches local and then make those required changes and then push. So you can make the branch locally on the repository, edit a file, and then push it back up. It doesn't make a huge difference. It'll just be noted when you push it on the remote and people will be able to see that that's what happened. So actually, before I go on to merging, I'm just going to kind of demonstrate what branches look like because they're really... I lied, I don't have a marker. This is not a whiteboard marker. Okay, that kind of destroys my plan a little bit. That's MS Paint. I found a marker. Cool. Right over here. So if you call this your bada boom, and this is your master branch. Let's say master is up here. Cool beans. So when I just created a develop branch, right, and I right-clicked on master, and it was like, are you sure you want to create a branch here? And I was like, hell yes, I do. What it did is essentially in a visual term, just kind of made a little bloop here. And so this is develop, and as you can see, I have drawn farther than I am actually height-wise, which was a mistake. So you have to develop here, and this kind of is being developed on the side of master. And so you can do anything to develop, and it'll go all crazy and kind of do whatever it is that you want. And master will stay exactly the same, except for when you merge. And so if I want to say, okay, I've tested develop, it's not going to break master, because you never want a broken build in your master branch, right? Essentially, if you're like doing things professionally, your master branch or your release branch is going to be things that are open to the public or that in game terms you're ready to release. Right? And so you don't want a broken build in master, because then your players are going to be like, what are you doing? And you're going to have a lot of angry people on your back. So when you merge, you're essentially just taking this and you're going, bringing it back up here and then making master update to those changes. And so you're taking all the changes that you've made in develop and updating master with everything that you've done, but without pushing to master any of the broken changes that you made, right? Because you haven't touched master for like 2 or 3 months. I know last semester during our second semester game, we started implementing this because I didn't really touch branches before, and like I said, that was a mistake. We implemented this and we didn't update master for like 2 or 3 months because lots of things broke, but we always had a version of the game that was ready to show off if we had to do so, right? And so it's kind of embarrassing when you only have one branch and you're pulling from it and you're like, yeah, everything's broken right now, but I promise you 2 days ago, it worked, and people are like, well, I don't see it working, so why do I care? So merging is, again, just the process of bringing 2 branches together. Files in the branches are combined together once those changes have been made, and it is for creating completed builds with all the features that you've already made and in there. But it can also introduce what's called merge conflicts, which can be kind of scary. And as you can see, I have a picture, a GIF of Kevin from Home Alone to indicate that it's kind of scary. So what are merge conflicts? So merge conflicts essentially occur when a file being merged has multiple variations. A lot of the time you're going to see this is like one line of your code is different from a line of the same file on a different branch. So let's say on line 1 of hello world.cpp, you have cout hello world, end line, semicolon. This is a semicolon. But let's say on your second branch, you have something that says printf because someone's using printf, hello world. And you're like, holy shit, this is a merge conflict. And GitKraken is going to be like, you can't push or commit this changes because there's a merge conflict. And you're like, oh my god, what the hell is that? It's not that bad. It will prevent merges from successfully occurring, however, and they can be mostly easily resolved. They're not very scary, as you can see from Finding Nemo. I can demonstrate for you. I will demonstrate a merge conflict because sometimes they are scary. So let's say I have develop and master here. I'm going to go into this, and I'm going to check out develop. I actually forgot to mention what checkouts are. A checkout is essentially just switching the working copy of that's on your computer to the branch that you switched to. And so if I check out master, it's going to change the files on my computer to the files that are in master. If I go over to develop and I check out develop, it's going to change those files to the ones in develop. And you can't see this right now because they're both the same thing, but if I put like develop branch here and save it, and then you're going to see here that it's a work in progress file. So I'm just going to here, stage changes, commit. Don't use this structure because it's bad, and don't commit like this. But for the purposes of demonstration, I'm going to do it. So now you can see here that it says develop branch, and so I'm going to go check out master, and it's going to say this file is modified by another program. And so I'm going to hit yeah, I want to reload it because obviously I checked out master and I want to see what happened. And wow, develop branch is gone. Isn't that amazing, everybody? That's what checking out branches does. It's not that scary, and it's not that hard. Also, you can see here that it has said that I need to push those, so I am going to do that because it's going to demonstrate a merge conflict. So now I have develop. Develop's working. It's Gucci. We want to bring it over to master. So I'm going to say right-click on master here, and I'm going to merge develop into master. And that worked because it was on another line. So I'm going to create a merge conflict properly this time and then demonstrate to you what a merge conflict does. And I just switched back to my presentation. And I did it again. Alright, so we're going to go over here and I'm going to show that in folder. And then my folder is going to open in the bottom here. I'm going to switch it over. Alright, so in Notepad, I am going to put up here, instead of on the same line, I'm going to say merge conflict in nice letters. And then I'm going to close and save that. And now on my develop branch, I am going to merge it into here by staging these changes and saying what you do, it's a merge conflict, and I'm going to commit those changes. And so now, hopefully, if I merge into develop, it's going to be fuck. Why is that happening? Hold on, guys. Sorry, I'm out of it. I haven't slept in quite a while. I woke up at 5:30 this morning. I'm honestly like quite confused as to why this isn't working, because I tested it at home and it was working. So give me a hot second.
Because you forgot to say that you just posted?
It's very possible that I did forget to do that, whoever just spoke and told me what I did wrong. Thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to check out develop real quick and see where it is that issues are being caused. So that should be a-okay. But for the purposes of not wasting more time, I'm just going to create a new file on both of these and call it the same thing. So we're just going to create a text and solve a merge conflict, hopefully. You never actually want to hope for a merge conflict, but I do, because I need to show you how to fix them. So it's going to be like 1, 2, 3. Save that and push it into my master build. Never do what I'm doing. And commit. And then I'm going to switch to my develop and create another thing called a merge conflict. Actually, for the sake of this, I'm just going to copy pasta. So do a little copy there, check out develop. As you can see, merge conflict.txt is gone. Wow, why is that? It is that. Yeah, you're right, Emery. Cool. Just gonna copy the. Oh, it just said 1, 2, 3. I just forgot what I named it, like actually 5 times in a row, which is why I switched back and forth like that. Cool. So this is the portion of the presentation that I forgot to plan out well. If you haven't figured that out by now, I'm just gonna call it 1, 2, 3, 4, and then push that as well. Cool. And if this doesn't work, that's going to be really kind of sucky. So I'm going to check out master, and then we're going to merge develop into master. Yes! Merge conflict. Wow. You will never say those words ever, except for in the state that I just did. And so you're going to be like, oh my god, it's a merge conflict, and you know, you're freaking out, you're probably crying, it's terrible. You're going to open up your file explorer, or conversely, you can also open it through here, but I'm just going to show you on this because it's a little easier. Repos this. And so when you open it up, here's what you're going to see, is a lot of weird shit. And you're going to be like, what is, actually, can you guys see that? Yeah, no, maybe? Not that well, thank you, Emery. I'm just going to change that to a solid 18. Cool. And so you're going to be like, what the fuck? Where did all these angle brackets come from? Because it looks like someone actually just shat a bunch of angle brackets into your code. Not that scary. Essentially what it's saying is like, this is the head. And so the head is the, I'm gonna use some terms here that might be scary. Is where the pointer on the file is pointing in your local repositories. This is your working branch. And so this is where it is. This is what your computer sees. But it's going to be like, but in develop, you have this little, you have something else going on here. And so the equals denotes the change in repository. So this is the one branch that's up here, that's the working branch, and then down here, this is where the branches split, and that just kind of denotes that the branches have split off, and this is where the merge conflict is. So to resolve this merge conflict, because which branch is our branch that is the most updated? Someone answer my question. Yes. Develop. That's correct. Craig, right? Yeah, Craig. Okay, so develop is our most updated branch. And so in order to resolve this merge conflict, all we're going to do is get rid of that and get rid of this, because we know that 1, 2, 3, 4 is in develop. And we're going to do that and save. And then back in here, you can either hit mark all as resolved, or you can try to do the merge again. So you actually have to mark it as resolved over here first. Stage them and commit and merge, and boom, merge successfully because we got rid of the merge conflict. Now it's not going to be easy as 1, 2, 3. Yeah, Em.
Yeah, I was just saying that there's also another way of doing merge conflicts. It's get easier as well on GitHub.
Oh, is there? Oh, because it puts them side by side, right?
Yeah, it puts them side by side, and you can choose which one you want.
Yeah.
Do it on that.
That's a good point. I forgot that GitKraken did that. So GitKraken, if you do click on the merge conflict when it's over there, it'll actually throw A and B side by side, and you can see both files like one to another, like in a split window pane, and it'll show you where your files are conflicting. And so obviously you're not going to have something as easy as that. It's not going to be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. It might be a few lines of code that you're going to have to go through and do some manual editing with. But merge conflicts aren't something to be scared of, and I want to tell you guys this because it's the reason that I didn't use branches in first semester, and it's also the reason that my game kind of got screwed over is because I didn't use branches, because I was scared of merge conflicts, which aren't scary. So don't be scared of merge conflicts. They're there and they exist, but they're not something to not use a branch for. So I don't know if we're running kind of late, but no one's in this room for a long, long time. So I would like if you guys could create a branch for each of your team members and then have everyone initialize in their branch their own text file. It can be their name and then just have their name inside the text file. But if you guys are aware of how do you actually use branches, and then merge all those files into master. Actually, don't merge all your files into master because that's a lot of branch merging they have to do beforehand. So just create your branches with all your different names in them. Yeah. So I didn't realize it was running as late as it was going, but
No, that's okay. We're not even. We still got 20 minutes.
oh, sweet. Last night. Matt, what's that face?
He's looking at my branches.
Oh, let me see this.
I put a GIF of it.
Oh, holy shit! That's what our source tree looked like.
Yeah, that's my.
That's Forrest.
Yeah, that's my.
Yeah, branches are really pretty to look at.
They are.
Other times they're just kind of cool. Like, we had one that was like here, and it branched off, and it came back up. I was like, what is going on?
We have some that die, and that's because like visual science, right? So
Yeah.
we take our games framework, and then somebody would make a new branch for head, and then move the game out of the game so that they could use it.
Basically canon first semester CG.
Oh, and myself as well. Throughout all the seven I did all my CG2 assignments and that.
Well, yeah, because your engine already had the first rendering as of the first semester,
Yeah.
so.
Instead of updating. No, very good.
I remember reading the lab would be
We were there, me and Steven were there. Not straight in a row, but we were working for 36 hours total before final.
I remember playing this game. I also remember nowhere in your control tutorial you mentioned there was a bash.
Like when you press start, the first thing it says is use the left stick to move and press any face button to dash.
Oh, that would be why, because I only ever play tested your game on keyboard. So we said press space to dash.
You're in IT. You are probably the lead. You should be able to fit your desk.
Well, that's how the ideal different records.
There's a big debate over this. Alright, I pushed my red like instruction based on when you're not trying to. It's pretty much
I try and help you, but you're kind of
yeah, you're normal. Because like you're right, you technically but like you're thinking about that is like you really want to right? If you want to modify you still have to read that. So like the thing about the depth buffer is the depth buffer already exists. So you can use a few lines of math that ends up happening for every single picture. Yeah, and it takes the same amount of time as it does to write to that one extra time buffer. So it's like it's really the trade-off. It's just
Awesome. And now you can see that. So gets back and once you have your like the entire branches, and it's really nice to visualize that you can select that. And so if you'd like, you can now push your
well, that's absolutely not true, because you don't need to know where the directory is, you just need to know how to open it.
Yeah, but you can't break the code if you can't find the directory.
You just write
have that in file.
I think so.
And so now teammates, if you can say
No,
branch
that's the name.
and then see all the changes. Cool. Everything good, Ryan? That's okay. Oh God, there's so many.
Yeah, I just
Alright, where are we at?
yeah, and when there's merge conflicts, it's
Alright, have you got hers off?
I was totally lost. Why would this just
yeah, no, you probably uploaded that actual command to all 50 copy and paste their files somewhere else, do a poll, and then manually check the files and figure out what we want to do.
that's why I was
And it's easy to
I know sauce points from one of and I didn't see how it's I thought it was easy. I'm like, okay, that's okay. How can yeah, it's not that bad. It's way easier than
Now that's good.
What's going on?
So, and now with anyone else, you can check on your GitHub.
I mean,
You can see that.
I do that. I set it up. I set it up for private. Hard to find. So.
Let's switch over, yeah.
oh, private costs.
Yeah, private costs money.
Use the drop box.
Yeah, usually costs money.
Stop. Also, people who are looking at your password because the source control is on the source, you can see all the changes that you made during the over the course of so, and it also allows your team to see where branches diverge between if they're on a certain
Yeah. Twice the master. One is called changes PvP2. The other one is AI.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not I have a chance, but I don't want to decide and have to pass it right now. If you guys laugh, I cannot try nap for 5 minutes, it's like nothing. Yeah, half an hour or 1 hour. Sometimes it's just
But I guess you could put a
so
repository
I just rather not have a nap. I'll just have a nap.
and do that. But that's kind of gross, and I wouldn't recommend doing it.
I know. I know how hard it is. And then when he said go for it, and he was talking about something I don't relate.
He didn't upload a branch. The last branch was
Like when he said go for it,
did by having.
I just passed it. And I woke up and I look up and the skeletons on the ceiling.
Yeah. You're having an issue? I can fix your issue. Oh, that's okay. So you just wanted to push it. Okay.
Did I tell you that? Remember how I rambled to you for like an hour?
Yes, I saw your post online. They're doing exactly that.
Yeah, it's just they finally just
Yeah, because we're on start of the course PC.
I guess they like.
You can see that it is.
You don't have to.
Is it in something else on but it's master. Because now it says that you're asking so you might have which is fine. See when you push to markets, it was like no one's wanting to look at it. See when I backstabbed, like I don't know exactly how you did that. Because I was in your phone.
Giant mess. But we can just nobody else.
So like
Let's check it out. Oh my god. So take 2 is now 7. I think you might have just accidentally like linked it up there to say or to when you push on which one should it linked to and it says origin on the backslash. You may have accidentally just selected master. Yeah, it's fine. Like just watch that in terms of when you actually do it. So this says that so take 2 that's what it is. And so this is take 2, it says that okay, now take 2 is on the origin and also so this is only whereas master is on since those icons and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, branch out. So someone has to get
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, I should demonstrate that. Sorry, it's like. So to push towards it, we need to check it out. Check it out. It's on this locally. And you can make as many changes to it as you want, and then push it back.
That's a Unity thing. Okay, that's a Unity thing. That's the placeholder for the player while we're still modeling. Yeah. So yeah. Everything's okay. I'm sorry, she changed the name. The file is not the branches stuff. The file name is it's okay down here. Go ahead and change it. Sure, we are inserted the way through. That's in the camera time.
All right. I know some people are still having some problems doing their branching things. I only have one more slide to go though, and it just outlines the Git flow interface workflow kind of scenario. So I'm just going to run through that real quick, and then I can go around the room and answer any questions or develop my points further if anyone has further questions. Cool. So what is Git flow? Git flow is a framework for organizing your repositories. Instead of having a bunch of things going on at once, and you kind of have this shady, like really rickety-rackety kind of way of organizing your repository, you can use a framework called Git flow. And Git flow isn't something you can download, although it is a plugin that you can have on your computer. It's more so just a way of working. It's similar to, if you're familiar with project management, things like Agile or something similar to that. It's just an idea. So Gitflow has two different types of branches, a feature branch and a develop branch. And so I also call it a feature/developer branch. Essentially what that means is that if I go back to the diagram that I have over here, your master branch is, again, not going to be touched very often, and your develop branch is also not going to be touched very often. So because I'm small, I'm going to redo this over here. So you have your, develop from master. Well, cool. And so develop is, again, ahead of master, right? But now, instead of doing all our changes on develop, we're going to have different branches for every member of your team, or alternatively, every feature that you're working on. So you want to have one branch for my boy Emery over here. I'm already there. And another branch off develop for myself. Right? And now we're going to work on things individually, right? So let's say me, I'm working on getting character movement implemented. So that's what this branch is going to be doing. And so I'm going to have maybe some different files in there that works on character movement. But Emery is working on double buffering, so that our game doesn't give you seizures when you're playing it, right? Which is important. You're going to run into that. We'll have a double buffering session later. But so now Emery is developing completely separately from me, right? And we're not touching the same files. We might, and we can resolve merge conflicts because we know how to do that now. So let's say I'm going. I have character movement down. Emery has his double buffer down, right?
Just quiet down a bit.
Thank you. Yeah, so let's say that now I have character movement, Emery's finishing his double buffer, but we have these two separate branches that are branched off of develop. What Emery and I can both do separately is right-click on develop and merge my branch back into it, and he can merge his branch into develop as well. And so now we have this version of develop that has both character movement and double buffering done. We've essentially, without touching the develop branch at all, and while working separately, have implemented two different features into our game without any huge conflict, without any sharing things over Discord, like, hey, can you touch this file first? We both work separately. There haven't been any conflicts because of branches, and we now have a working version of the game. Pretty cool. I think it's really friggin' awesome. And now let's say, hey, this is our new updated develop branch, right? And I have made the same mistake of drawing lines that are way too long. Let's say this thing is working, it's Gucci. Now we can update master, and so you're going to go a little boom there and kind of draw a really disgusting line all the way up here. And now you have master, which is your new working branch. And so now in this version of master, we have character movement and our double buffer. And we have not broken the repository in the process, which is good. So back over here, you work on individual features, or if your project name is called whatever your developer name is, which is your name, you can work on individual features in that feature branch. And when you're done, you merge it into develop. You test the develop so that you make sure nothing's breaking. And then as soon as that's done, you push it into master. And so there is a nifty little link down here that I can show you. Though that is basically the end. And so if you're interested in learning how Gitflow works, you can do that. I have a link that I can push into, that I can publish in the developer programming help channel. But that is the end of the presentation, guys. I know it was really long and it's kind of rough. So I really encourage you to send me any feedback that you have on this presentation to me in the programming help channel, because you guys are kind of my guinea pigs. I'm going to show it to you again in GW1 in 2 weeks to your entire first year class, so I do want it to be better. If you have any feedback, maybe things that you want me to put in or slow down a little bit, please let me know. I want it to be as good as possible for in 2 weeks. Other than that, if you want to learn a little bit about Gitflow, I can open up that wonderful link here, which is just Gitflow. Who just said what? And so this is what Gitflow looks like. If you want a really kind of pretty colors going on here, it's essentially the same thing I just said, except with wonderful command line comments now, because why the fuck not? And so you can just see this is like the feature branches, and they have a lot of things going on here. Release branches, which is something we didn't cover. It's not really necessary for the scope of your projects. And hotfix branches, which are also not on the scope of our projects. But I can post this in the programming help if you want a more working out, more fleshed out version of what I just presented, because Gitflow is kind of rushed. So I will do that now. Yeah.
A lot of people are asking if you're gonna send the slides to the GPC channel.
Yeah, I can definitely put the slides on GPC.
See, I appreciate it.
For Quest 4, you said to make was it one for like everyone?
Yeah, for everyone in your. Where's my mouse? Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, for branch for each team member. Okay. Do I have to do that for? Do I have to do that, or is it that everyone?
They can do it themselves. Like it's fine.
And then because we merge it all together.
Yeah, you merge it all together.
Yeah, but do I have to do it? Do I have to do it as well? Do I have to do one for everyone as well? Or,
everyone who's like working on the programming idea.
Or do I just? So I still have to have a branch for everyone myself. And
Yes.
It's the same for everyone else. So they have to write like everyone else's names, like including mine.
Oh no. So you
yeah.
on your version of the repository, right? You make a branch for yourself, right? And you make any changes that you want to that.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, no problem. And you push that, right? And everyone else will see it. So everyone just has to make a branch for themselves.
Oh, right, because it's local.
Yeah.
So I'm the only one who's seeing it anyways. So. Okay.
Yeah, you're the only one who sees it until you push it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Now I get it. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem, my dude.
Really new to game dev. Do you know where should I get started?
You're new to game. Okay, so are you?
I'm not in game dev.
Oh, you're not in the program.
Yes.
Okay. Where to get started?
Yes, we're done.
That's a good question. What are you looking to
So
do?
many places to start. Maybe 2D or else.
2D? All right. Em, do you know where to get started? Like, we're not in the program.
John recommended me
Unity?
yes.
How much background do you have? Like, what are your strengths in terms of Unity? Like, are you a programming guy? Or are you a programmer? Okay. Then if you already have programming down pat, honestly, I would just recommend either you can try small games in the C++ console, right? So like write something really tiny in the C++.
Try making a guessing.
Yeah, and like the C++ framework, so that you can like get the idea of how game programming works, because it's a little different from other programming, right? And so get like a main game loop down, which is basically just something that runs indefinitely until the program's closed, right? Have something like that works out, and make something simple like program like something like tic-tac-toe or a guessing game like Emery said, where it's just a random number that the player has to guess. Yeah, and then just work your way up from there.
Oh,
the
so
first
like a game loop that's not from Unity, just like
yeah, I wouldn't recommend using Unity to start off because it does a lot of things for you.
yeah, I know. Someone I talked to, they told me that Unity
Not a problem, but
Unity handles a lot of the components as well as the game loop itself. Right?
yeah, it does. It does a lot of things.
Sounds really convenient. So really
Yeah,
did
it does a lot of things for you, but at the same time, it doesn't really teach you the inner workings of game dev. So, like, if you want to learn a little more background,
done
If you actually
some
want to have
games
stuff.
before.
you have done games. Okay, so if you've done it before and like you feel comfortable jumping in with Unity, definitely do that. There's a lot of tutorials on Unity's website that are really, like,
Especially for scripting.
yeah, that are really useful, and they kind of walk you through just the creation of a game. This isn't it, but
Holy.
yeah, there's a lot of stuff to be learned. This is like the UFO tutorial. So
Do you know what you guys use for sprite making? Creating sprites.
it's really up to the person creating the sprite. Like some people choose to use Photoshop and make their sprites in Photoshop. Other people use online tools like my boy Piskel. Piskel's online. It's literally just this. You remember this?
I had it on my phone.
Yeah, right. So like some people choose to use Piskel. It really doesn't matter as long as you know you have art that you like. The tools that you use don't matter that much.
But they do help.
They do help. Yeah.
A lot. Sometimes. Alright.
Yeah.
Curious, how heavy is the book?